Good. How are you?
I've had a long day.
Sure.
Is your name Mayreed?
Mairead.
Mairead, okay, good, thank you. All the Irish folks in the audience, including Mr. Kaufman, take me in thanks. All right, you all set to go?
Yes.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call to order our first hearing of the evening. This is the application of Mairead and John Paul Keane. It's dated April 3rd, 2018, and they seek variances from the terms of section 6C1 and 6C3. Essentially, the applicants are seeking to remove an existing sunroom and replace it with an L-shaped open deck to the rear of their single-family home. The house is located at 650 Randolph Avenue, Milton. Section 6C1 of the bylaw requires that portions of new buildings be set back a minimum of 10 feet from the side property line, when the applicants here are proposing 4 feet 1 inch from the left side property line. And with respect to the rear elevation, there's a section 63, depending on the dimensions of the lot, has this complex formula that that the building inspector applies under the bylaw. And this formula indicates that the building should be set back 17.5 feet from the rear property line, and the applicants are proposing 12.1 feet from the rear property line. This property is in a residency district. My name is John Leonard. I'm chairman of the Board of Appeals. With me this evening is, to my immediate right, is Kathleen O'Donnell, and to my immediate left it's been a long day, Stephen Lundbohm. The rules of the board are such: we're going to hear from the applicant, then we'll hear from the people who want to speak in support of the application. We'll hear from anyone who either has questions of the applicant or wishes to speak in opposition to the within application or applications. Even though the proceedings this evening are being televised on Milton Access TV, I think it is, the official record is the transcript and the tape recording here. So would ask you to speak up nice and clear and loud, tell us your name and address before you speak, and we can have an accurate record of the proceeding. The microphones you have there are for TV purposes. They do not project your voice or amplify your voice. So with all that as a rather long-winded preamble, I've read the application, I've read the advertisement. We have the application, which we'll have as evidence. We have a letter from Mr. Prondek dated December 27th, 2017, indicating the zoning issues. And we have some plans from Norfolk, this is upside down, Norfolk Kitchen and Bath, showing the proposed addition. And we also have a plot plan from C.S. Kelly, Land Surveyors of Pembroke, and that plot plan is dated 10/23, 2017. So we'll have all of those documents as evidence at the hearing. Welcome to the Board of Appeals. Who's going to make the presentation? Maybe you both want to make it.
Yeah, I'll start.
Great.
So,
Why don't you tell us who you are, just so we have you on the tape.
sorry, I'm Mairead Keane. I live at 650 Randolph Ave.
Great, welcome to the Board of Appeals.
Thank you. So we'd like to replace the three-season porch that's for the open-air deck due to living on Randolph Ave. Obviously, traffic, accidents, and those things.
Shocking.
The
Shocking
L-shaped,
results.
the open-air deck would allow for a safe, secure outdoor area for our two young children to be able to spend some time, if we are inside the house, trying to, clean or prepare dinner or something like that. And then the L-shaped part, the stairs would be less steep. They've had a few falls on the stairs that were attached to this three-season porch. And so the L-shaped stairs would be less steep, and then it would also allow for kind of a clearer path underneath, so there'd be more room to use the small plot of land that we have there for when they're outside downstairs.
So what's the area of the lot, the gross?
7,000 square feet around,
Okay, and the size of the house is approximately?
1,700 square feet.
Okay. Great, is there anything else you want to tell us about your application?
No, I think that's
Okay, how about the deck? What is it made of? Is it going to be stained?
closet.
Isaac.
Is
Oh, well, sure, this is the Norfolk Kitchen and Bath. Are these folks going to do it?
No.
Oh, okay. Are you going to do it yourself?
No. I want to be a contractor.
Oh, but you don't have a contractor in mind at the present time?
No.
No, okay. Did you have the opportunity to discuss this project with your neighbors?
So, we do have a neighbor to the left side
Okay,
that we
who's-
did.
who's that?
I don't know, what's their first name?
Hannah and Hyro, and I
We
forget
just
their
see them,
last
we
name.
just see them,
We've
you
met
know,
them
in
twice.
passing in our driveway, because the way our land is we just abut everybody's backyards. Everybody's homes are actually on Pleasant Street, so we don't actually see them very much, but the ones on the left side that we have seen,
You know the address on the left? Well, you know what yours is, so it's left higher or lower, so.
They're
They're
actually
on
on
Pleasant
Pleasant
Street.
Street.
Oh,
They're
okay.
on Pleasant Street, so we abut everybody's backyards, not actually their homes. And so they verbally told us they have no issues with it. The neighbors directly behind us have a high fence with high trees that we don't ever see. And then the neighbor to the right, we abut their high fence and backyard. And I think we've only seen them once.
And how long have you been residing in this residence?
We bought the home in
2013. 5
2013,
years. So,
but we don't actually have any homes that are neighboring us. They're mostly backyards.
Great, let me see if my colleagues have any questions. Mr. O'Donnell?
I didn't see, so this plot plan shows, well, it says as-built deck plan, but it's not as-built. You haven't built it yet.
So the three-season porch was coming down.
Uh-huh.
So it was come down, and there's like a platform
Okay,
there
so
right now.
this is sort of what
What-
is there
yeah,
now?
Yeah,
Because
but it's,
what-
it's not a complete deck. It's
Okay.
just the platform.
Okay. I was just
For
trying
the
to.
second safe exit of the home.
Oh, okay. I was just trying to get some idea about what you have there now and whether the footprint of this proposed
Is larger.
is larger.
The proposed is larger than the footprint.
Okay.
You must have scared them away.
Yeah.
I think they're going downstairs.
Was there any idea to sort of keep it within the same boundaries of the existing?
We thought about that, but the way the stairs were, we wanted to move them so
Oh,
that they'd
okay.
be, so that it'd be more functional.
Okay.
They'd be like a step down, so the kids would have then a step and a turn, so it wouldn't be.
there'd be a landing or two, and then the steps
Oh, okay.
take you away.
That's all I.
Mr. Lundholm, please.
I don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I think you've answered all of my questions. Let me see, is there anybody present this evening who wishes to speak in support of the Keen's application for variances? Or who may have any questions of Mr. and Mrs. Keen? Okay, there's no such person present. Now we'll ask the real big question. Is there anyone present this evening who wishes to speak in opposition to these applications for variances? Thundering silence. So there's nobody that wishes to speak in opposition, so I assume you want to quit while you're ahead, so you have nothing further you want to add. So under the open meeting law, we're required to discuss this application in the open session and to vote on it, and we intend to do that here and now. Ms. O'Donnell, do you want to be heard?
I think that, given the fact, I've looked at the lot on Google Earth and confirmed that that's right. There are no immediate abutters who would be, I think, visually affected by this.
They put up fences, that's why.
Fences,
Before we moved
barbed
in.
wire,
Well, that's right. And
dragons, you name it.
you haven't
But
seen
yeah,
them
yeah.
since 2013. That's,
I don't have a problem with it.
they don't obviously have a
Yeah.
problem.
I'm okay with it.
Mr. Lundbone, please.
Thank you for your presentation, very informative. It is a tough area in Randolph Ave with traffic, and I can understand the need. It looks like it'd be a fine addition, fine deck, and I would tend to vote in favor, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, great. Well, my thought was you did a fine job presenting the application. And we really see the need for it with the small children. Randolph Ave is a familiar topic for the Board of Appeals. We've had the police chief talk about the speeding and the traffic and the mayhem that takes place there. And on occasion, we have to drive on Randolph Avenue, and it's a very difficult place, and it's a difficult place to raise young kids. And I think your deck is tasteful. It seems like it's going to be a wonderful addition to the house, so I intend to vote in support of this application. I didn't ask you, and I should have. I have to apologize to my colleagues. I just want to ask you this. These sketches of Norfolk kitchen and bath that you've attached to the application, you're going to be, your contractor is going to be constructing the deck in substantial conformity with these plans?
Well, probably more professional than those plans are.
Right,
looking,
but that's
yes.
essentially
Yes.
what it's going to look
Yes.
like.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're not going to have some,
No.
some substantial variation of the theme that
No.
Mr. Prondak will be shocked at when he sees it and
No.
says, did the board allow this? So just keeping within
No,
these
no,
parameters,
absolutely.
then everyone's going to be happy.
Okay.
Okay. So all those in favor of granting these two applications for variances with standard conditions, we always add a condition there that you should start construction within a year and then complete it within reasonable dispatch and all of that. So those are the usual conditions. I should tell you this, since you're not represented by counsel, that even though nobody spoke in favor or in opposition, more importantly, to your application, there's still a 20-day waiting period. So once we file the application with the town clerk, it's not final for 20 days. Okay. So if you want to, if you or your builder, if you've selected a builder by that point in time, want to do some preliminary work, you talk with Mr. Prondak and he controls how much, you couldn't build the deck, but if you wanted to do some cleanup work or do some demolition, just keep in touch with Mr. Prondak. And I think more importantly, Mr. Prondak or Mrs. Fitzgerald, our trustee clerk here, will get you a certified copy of the actual variance that's issued, and you should record that in the order, in the registry of deeds for Norfolk County. You want to keep the title to your property up to date, and you want your variances to become effective, and if you don't record them, they're not legally effective, and you don't want that to happen. It's not a big deal, it's just to do it in due course. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Did we vote?
I don't think we did.
Oh, I'm sorry, hold on one second, I thought we voted, but we didn't. We
You
talked
asked
about
for
it.
the- You interrupted yourself
I
by
did.
asking for, by
I did.
putting in the.
I did, so all
specs.
those in favor of these variances with the usual conditions that we've discussed and we render on decisions like this, all say aye.
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 So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Officially got
Appreciate
you
it.
there.
Thank you.
Thank you. We hope to.
I got it, John. Yes.
Okay.
So Teresa's sitting in for you.
Hello there, how are you?
Good, I'm Tracy Hano. I have a. And then we'll see you in a little bit.
That's okay, that's fine.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, thanks for coming in.
No.
What's-
I'm Steve Lundbaum.
I'm Tracy Hano. Nice to meet you.
We did everything to find somebody else who could step in.
No, I totally,
Everyone
I
was-
so appreciate you guys doing what you could.
Stephen, do you have another folder under there?
Here's, next one up, yeah.
Where's the will folder?
Steve's got it, right?
Here's the folder, here's the application, yeah.
Oh, okay, you've got the folder, okay, that's fine, that's fine.
Be your assistant.
I can see your assistant.
You all set? Mr. Corcoran, you all set to go?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to call to order our second hearing of the evening. This is the application of Anthony and Leslie Will. It's dated March 27, 2018, seeking variances from the terms of Section 6B1 and 6B4 of the Milton zoning bylaw. The applicants here are proposing to build a 510-square-foot, one-story addition to their front of their home with a detached 798-square-foot single-family garage. The premises are located at 234 Randolph Avenue in Milton. Section 6B1 requires that portions of new buildings be set back 30 feet from the front property line, and in this application, the applicant is proposing 16.24 feet. And Section 6B4 requires that accessory structures be set back a minimum distance of 40 feet from the front property line, and here the applicant is proposing 24.48 feet from the front property line. This property is located in a Residence A district. My name is John Leonard. I'm Chairman of the Board of Appeals. With us tonight is Therese Quijano and Stephen Lundboom. The rules of the board are going to be just as they were for the first hearing. We hear the applicant, we'll hear people if they have any questions. We'll listen to people in support of the application, and those, if any, want to speak in opposition to the application. We're recording the proceedings tonight, so we'd ask that everyone speak up nice and loud and clear, and tell us name and address, so we'll have an accurate record of the proceeding. As evidence for the, we have I'll wait till Mary comes back. You attract a big crowd, Mr.
We
Corcoran.
need that activity, you know, in hearings like this.
So as documentary evidence at the hearing, we'll have the application. We have an addendum to the application filed by Mr. Corcoran describing a lot of attachments to his application, the requested relief, and the reasoning as to why the board should allow the application for variances. We have a March 22nd, 2018 denial letter from Mr. Prondak. We have a plot plan of land by Robert E. Hannigan, which is dated March 16th, 2018, showing the subject property, its the position on Randolph and Brook Road, and the proposed additions. We have a whole series of plans from on the board's design of Cambridge, Massachusetts, showing the subject property in multiple sheets and multiple variations, including computer graphic portrayals, depictions of the property. It looks like there's 8 or 10 different exhibits for which we thank the applicant and Mr. Corcoran. So I think, without further ado, Mr. Corcoran, welcome back to the Board of Appeals.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, I'm joined by Anthony Will, who, with his wife Leslie, is the owner of the property and is the applicant. And I have to hand to the board signatures of approximately 16 abutters to the property signing on in support of the application. There's substantially all of the abutters. I think there's one or two that might be not included, but otherwise,
Are they traveling in Europe or something?
they're off somewhere, so.
Not available.
And if the board indulge me, I'd like to step over to the boards that I have over here, but more particularly describe the application.
Do you want to switch microphones with me, or are you?
This is fine.
with that?
This is fine. Thank you. So, try and do it so that you can see. The property,
One sec. If anybody back there can't see the boards and wants to come up and stand around here somewhere, so feel free to do that. Go ahead, Mr.
thank you. And I'm also joined by Michael Zalagi, who is the project architect with On the Boards Design. It's over here. So this is the property at the corner of Randolph Avenue and Brook Road. As you come south down the hill on Randolph, it's on your left. This lot was created in the late 1950s. It was divided off of this larger lot that it comprises 226 Randolph Avenue. It's obviously a legally conforming lot, and the house itself is a one-story structure that was built in 1958. The structure was sited at the upper hill side, the northerly side of the property, and has a shared driveway, shared of easement driveway with the property at 226 Randolph. The property, it was built without a garage and modern sort of mudroom capabilities. The bedrooms are on the far side of the property. The main entry is to the Randolph side, and the kitchen and other living area is all in this area. The Wills have had the property for several years now and desire to add a garage and a mudroom for the property. There's really no place to put the garage or mudroom along the property line proximate to the driveway entry, and so really to do it, you need to come sort of down the hill below the property, down below the house. This is a plan view turned the other direction. This is now Randolph Avenue, Brook Road. The topography is pretty significant. It comes from elevation 60 in the rear down to 45 in the front. It's about a 15-foot drop of topography overall. It's somewhat gradual, although it's terraced here around the front of the house, the rear sort of front lawn, the lawn side of the house, if you will. There's a beautiful green lawn, and again, the desire not to break up or put new structures within that lawn area. So really, the place that they've determined is best to do it is sort of proximate to the Randolph Avenue side of the property. There is, along the Randolph Avenue side of the property, a stone wall and fence. This is Randolph Avenue looking in the house, the top of the hill, Randolph Avenue coming down. The wall and the fence are entirely on the Wills property. There's a fairly wide swath of property between the edge of the roadway and the wall that is owned by the town. Randolph Avenue is a fairly wide right-of-way at that location. There's a green area, but the wall and the fence are entirely on the Will property. The property line is actually outboard of the wall. The plan is to do two things, and graphically, I think these are about as good a set of graphics as I've worked with in a while. But again, Randolph Avenue at the top, proposal addition of a one-story mudroom coming in off that Randolph side of the property, and then sort of coming down along Randolph Avenue, a cut in the wall with a driveway into a standalone garage with a separate walkway entry here. The bylaw provides, now, it's a corner lot, so it's got essentially 2 front yards under the bylaw. And the bylaw requires 30 feet setback off of a front yard, although this is the side of the house, and 40 feet for a detached garage-like structure off of the same front yard setback. As I indicated, if one were to pay attention to the setbacks as necessary, this garage would have to come an additional 15 feet over into the middle of what is really a beautiful lawn area. And the mudroom presumably would have to come around to the other side of the building or come over to the front of the building, also either in the area where the bedrooms are and potentially violating the rear yard setback, or down here where the, down towards the lawn, again, taking up the lawn area. So based on that combination of factors, we think it's a reasonable approach that this board would grant a variance from those 2 setbacks to allow the mudroom to be set back 16 feet from the side yard lot line, and the garage 24 feet from the side yard lot line. The mudroom itself will be buried on the other side of this wall and fence. Attached to the existing house, there'd be a graceful cut in the wall and driveway, curved driveway entering below into this driveway and garage area. There'll be a turnaround parking area for vehicles that'll be on the other side of the wall, visible from Randolph Avenue. There's a large tree here which will provide some view, blocking of some view as well. And so that's just a couple of other sort of angles of the view, sort of from a, oops. So that's sort of an aerial looking from above Randolph Avenue down on the project. So with that, I'll open to the board for questions, and we'll answer.
I just have
Yes, we
2
can.
questions. What's the size of the lot?
Just over 40,000 square feet.
And for the, do you need a curb cut permit from either Mass Highway or from the?
Not from Mass Highway, it's a municipal roadway. We'll probably need some form of a cut from the engineering department, but that is allowed as of a matter of course, I think.
Okay, so you don't need a state permit?
Oh, no state permit. It's not state highway. Randolph Avenue from St. Elizabeth's Church south to Chickatawbit is state highway. That would require curb opening permission from Mass Highway. The state highway ends at Reedsdale Road as you're coming north. Reedsdale Road carries a numbered route, Route 28, but it is a town road. And Randolph Avenue north of St. Elizabeth's Church is a town way.
Great. Mr. Lundbaum, do you have any questions?
The attached shed to the garage, is that included in the 798 square foot? Oh, that's the 1 story. Square footage on the garage, does that include that's within the application, does that include the attached shed? Garage is coming in at.
It is. I believe that does. That area is included within the square footage of the.
And there's no issue on the setback with the shed?
No, it's
Doesn't
part of the
look like it.
garage structure, and that shed, even if it were detached from the garage, is beyond the 40-foot setback.
Right. Yeah, I note the sort of odd concept that we're dealing with frontage with respect to the side of the house, so. And what's there now? That is, that looks like it's stucco, some sort of, the house itself as it exists.
I can answer that.
Yeah.
Mike Salaji, the architect on the board's design. The exterior of the house on the Randolph side is painted brick. The remaining sides of the house are painted clapboards.
The existing on this side is the painted brick,
Correct.
and then painted
And
clapboards.
then it's
the rest.
painted clapboards. Basically, the entire structure has a monolithic white look to it.
I know the house well, I know the area well. And it's fair to say that the garage and the proposed addition are gonna have the same type of materials and design.
Right. That's the design intent, was to, was a Royal Barry Wills, a pretty famous architect back in the 50s house. We're trying to respect the character of the house with the addition to the house as well as the new detached garage structure.
I don't have any other questions.
Ms. Quijano?
Thank you. My only question is the existing driveway. What is the plan for the existing driveway? Is there going to just be 2 driveways to the property at this point?
Yes.
Okay. That was really, the rest of my questions were answered by you folks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's see if there's, is there anybody out there who either has questions of the applicant or Mr. Corcoran, or who otherwise wishes to speak in support of the real variance applications? Okay, there's no such person present. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition to these variance applications? Well, we're hitting 100%. There's no such person present. Yes,
I just have some questions.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry, ma'am. No. You have to come up here. Unfortunately, you won't be picked up on television.
Oh, well, that's fine with me.
Oh, it is.
So,
But it's not fine with the people who are running the television show.
One of the things that I've noticed,
Name and address.
I'm Linda Weld. I live at 267 Adams Street in Milton. And I'm not an abutter, but I do know the area and the house somewhat. I just want to ask some questions because it seems to me in watching the zoning board and things that come through the historical commission that very often we really benefit when there are other possibilities brought forward. That in fact, if there's the need for a variance, perhaps there's a way around this without getting a variance. And I, for one, would hate to see the stone wall interrupted. I'm a little concerned about how close this driveway is to the intersection and the backups of traffic on Randolph Avenue at that
You
intersection.
know how far it is from the intersection? Have you scaled it off?
It's
Approximately.
115 feet.
115 feet, okay.
But it seems to me, and I did bring my own scale, but is this architectural or is it engineering?
That is engineering and it's architectural.
Okay. So the questions I have, why don't you come up here? Just because it has worked out in the past a couple of times when, for example, I guess it was the removal of something like 6 trees on Harlan Street. We were able to think of options and 1 tree is being removed rather than 6. And on Hillside Street, where someone with just plain ignorance, cut down a whole lot full of trees and just didn't know what the parameters were, didn't know that where the lot line versus where there's another easement for the trees that the town owns. So just to bring up some other ideas rather than to say, well, this is the only way to do it. Is this architectural skill or engineering skill?
This is 1 to 10, so engineering.
Oh, okay. For example, are we completely losing that?
A little bit, but I can hold it for you.
Okay. And I know you can get these drawings, so I'm not going to hesitate to ask if I can draw. What about, I mean, I realize there's a property line here as well, but there's a property line that we're talking about giving you an easement for over here. You know, what's the situation if we were to think about putting the
Right,
garage?
we did look at that. So to answer your original question, we went through several iterations before coming up with this design to present to the board. And we were very conscious of the fact that we were encroaching the setback. Unfortunately, this is the rear yard setback. So this actually has the same amount of setback as the front. So we would be encroaching, if not as much, perhaps even more in that back. But more importantly, the layout of this house is a one-story structure. The main central area is their entertaining space, and then all the bedrooms are on this side. The kitchen and family room are on this side. So putting a mudroom and a garage off of the bedroom side really defeats the purpose of what the homeowners are looking to do.
Well, what if you were thinking about the mudroom, for example, making sense off of this side of the house, but the garage being available off of this driveway?
Sure. There's also a front yard or a side yard setback, so that we'd be encroaching in both setbacks in that condition.
And this is an encroachment as well.
Correct. Yep.
So what I'm trying to do is say that in fact there are other possibilities for locating this garage. And if you're talking about an easement for a setback there, maybe it makes as much sense to ask for an easement for setbacks here.
Sure.
As the homeowner, I wouldn't be interested in parking in that garage. I mean, the logic of parking in this new proposed garage and walking 30 feet to a mudroom is a logical design that we've labored over and worked over. To stick the garage in that area and then walk around the house to get into the mudroom is illogical. The reason we're adding this mudroom is because the entrance to the house currently is here, and you enter into a very formal living space. And what we want to get away from is the hardwood floors and the carpeting. We want to get into a mudroom. So again, you know, I don't want to. We've developed a plan that we thought was eminently logical from rationalizing a house that doesn't have a mudroom, rationalizing a house that doesn't have a garage.
I think the other issue is that we now bring a garage and traffic closer to direct abutter who shares that common driveway.
We don't own the driveway, it's an easement over a driveway.
Now you'd be bringing your garage here closer to that direct abutter. This is a long side yard, more than 100 feet between the intersection and this driveway. That's a substantial length to handle traffic.
Ms. Well, do you have any further comments?
Yeah, one of the things that we've done a number of times, and Ned knows this, we've made site visits and looked at what the conditions were and what might make sense.
I'm sorry, could you just, who was we?
Oh, a historical commission, who else, Ned, have you gotten out towards the?
Are you on the Historical Commission?
Yes,
Oh, great.
but
Okay.
I don't speak for the historical.
No, I understand that.
Lots of site visits for sites in Milton, and frequently it's very informative to be on the site. So I'm suggesting that there are other possibilities and that visiting the site might be a good starting point for understanding this further.
Well, the application, I think, has been pending for quite a while. So it's, April, it looks like the 15th? Is that the date of the application?
The application was March 27.
March 27th, so normally that type of activity takes place pre-hearing rather than post-hearing. It can take place post-hearing, but it's,
I
It's,
think
it's
that might
certain,
be a good idea. I think it always helps everybody to understand what's going on, to see the traffic, to see what the issues are with the aesthetics of the stone wall, or the possibilities for other locations on the site.
okay, thank you for your suggestions. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Other than continuing to draw on these drawings to try and generate some ideas.
My bet is Mr. Corcoran will let you take them back there and you can draw to your heart's content, but we appreciate you coming
All
and
right.
and thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else who'd like to be heard? Yes, ma'am.
I'm a friend and I live around the corner, and my name is Meredith Hall.
Meredith Hall?
Yes,
Thank you.
41 Russell Street. And I had actually called and spoken to Leslie and Tony, because I think sometimes when these drawings, and I've gone through a project myself, and I empathize with the need of a garage and a lot of what you're going through. I'm here because of my concern. First of all, this is a scenic roadway, which I don't know if you've noted. It's actually currently not on our,
Randolph Avenue?
this is Randolph Avenue, is a scenic roadway actually between Reedsdale Road and Adams Street. So, and this particular location is sort of a gateway into Milton Hill. So as you enter in, you suddenly are coming into Milton Hill, and you have this bucolic country setting with stone walls, beautiful granite, old stone walls, over 100 years old. I don't know exactly how old. But when you look and you drive around Milton Hill, you will see on the main roads a lot of stone walls, Adams Street, Canton Ave, Randolph Ave. But what you also will see is narrow openings. Even to the Forbes House Museum, you don't have anything near quite as large as what is being proposed here. So my suggestion is that to lessen the impact of, and not even, necessarily the garage, but to lessen the impact of what is a really beautiful scenic roadway currently, is to narrow from a 25-foot opening, which is, you really don't see it. And this is where maybe a site visit might help to see what the old granite a lot of the openings in the stone walls are sometimes 12, 14 feet, 16 feet, but you don't typically see something that's 25 feet along that road, especially in directly across and in the area. So my proposed that I think if you could not lose as much of the stone, I know Tony, anything they do, they have wonderful taste and it will be beautiful, but if they could narrow the impact in reducing just that the garage will be what you see when you're driving by, and taking out a really large section of a really beautiful stone wall. I think narrowing that may just reduce that impact and allow achieving what the Wills want to achieve. So that's it.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate your comments. And Mr. Corcoran, just let me ask you in terms of the width of driveways, what is the bylaw or good engineering practice provide for a driveway at this particular location? Do you know? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
I could take that. I think
Please.
we've designed as little as 12 feet for a driveway. I think this condition, though, is a bit dated. I'm sorry?
Yes. Is that your easel, Mr. Corcoran, or is that the
no,
town's?
it's not my easel.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's mine.
We won't hold you responsible for all of this. Go ahead.
I think this is a bit atypical in respect to having to pull out and actually turn around to what we consider to be a safe way of actually accessing Randolph Ave. So we have a turnaround, and then we wanted to maximize the amount of visible space that they have as they're coming out of their driveway. That being said, the 24 feet was really based on the removal of 3 sections of fence, and there are 8-foot sections of fence. I do see the possibility, and I'd have to speak with Tony and Leslie about it, but reducing that to 16 feet, so taking only 2 sections of fence and still providing them with what I would consider to be a safe way of actually getting back onto Randolph Ave.
Okay.
So this mudroom really has a whole lot of stuff going on in it besides.
I'm sorry. Are you talking about Ms. Hall's suggestion on the driveway? Because I thought you concluded your presentation on, we can't have people running back and forth and coming up 10 times. We have one more hearing to go, but
So I think I can at least speak briefly to the issue of the scenic roadway.
Sure.
Scenic roadway addresses the removal of stone walls and/or trees that are within the town's layout in front of property. This,
there are no trees there, are there?
no
I didn't see
trees,
any trees.
and the wall is entirely on the Wills property, so that there is no jurisdiction under the scenic bylaws, I understand it. The bylaw, that bylaw is in the purview of the planning board. It is not in the purview of the Board of Appeals. And so, I suppose a consideration that the Wills would need to think it through would be whether or not to narrow that driveway to reduce the appearance of the impact. But as I think as the architect, Mr. Zolagi, explained, having an adequate width to see out and in. You know, the worst-case scenario is that Mr. Will would be coming home while Mrs. Will was pulling out, and all of a sudden, there was a question whether they had enough room, you know, to make that pass in and out, safely in and out of Randolph Avenue.
We'd certainly be open to the idea of looking at making it a 16-foot opening instead. It was arbitrary, we picked the wider opening just because of the fence, existing fence layout in 8-foot increments, so we can certainly look at that and would probably prefer to do it that way.
Would that take substantial study and planning?
No.
I think it's just narrowing the area of the pavement in and out, and it's taking out one less section of fence and removing.
Right, but other than saying, well, we're going from 25 feet to 16 feet, is there some type of either traffic analysis, access analysis, formulas that you apply to?
It's really just the turning radius of a car, and I think that would still work with the 16-foot width. I think Mr. Corcoran's point about 2 cars coming in, the hypothetical of someone leaving and someone coming in at the same time, given that Randolph Ave is quite a busy street, I think sort of warrants having the ability for 2 cars to pass, and that's where 16 feet would be my minimum recommended.
And in your opinion, that would be a safe access and egress from the property, considering the traffic
Going any
conditions
lower
that are outside?
Any less than that, and I would have some concerns, any less than
Right, but
16.
from my point, if you want to save a driveway, if you went to 18 feet or something, does that give you more margin for error? Or?
That's
We're not looking for the skinniest driveway that.
18 feet. If you're building a private way in a new subdivision, 18 feet is the minimum width
Okay,
that the planning board would be willing to approve
okay.
relative to the width of a way, so that there's adequate passing lane, room on each side. And usually 8 to 9 feet is the average width of a lane in a municipal roadway.
Right, but how about the condition of the wall and the fence? Does 25 feet have any magic to it? Is it Or could you do 18 feet just as easy as you can 25
It's going to
feet?
be challenging at any level, given the age of the wall, the haphazard placement of the granite blocks. We're really going to be challenged to find the best place to cut through the wall. More than likely, we're going to have to be cutting some granite. So there really isn't any benefit or negative to
Okay.
the size of the opening.
All right, so there are no discrete sections that have...
Unfortunately, not.
Okay, that's fine. Let's move on and see if we can come to some conclusion of this hearing. Is there anybody else who'd like to be heard? Yes, sir. Why don't you come on up here and tell us your name and address?
My name is Dudley Ladd.
Mr. Ladd, will you come closer to the... Oh, that's fine, great.
My name is Dudley Ladd, and I live at 198 Randolph Avenue, which makes me a very close neighbor and friend of Tony and Leslie. We share beehives and dog play yards, and we see a lot of each other, so I know the neighborhood very, very well. We live just up the hill, and I come as a member of the Milton Historical Commission, but as you correctly say, we have no jurisdiction in this matter whatsoever, so any comments I make are entirely as an individual.
As an individual, sure. We love you anyway, don't worry.
And we,
Delighted you're speaking.
and I do feel that the wall is a wonderful thing, and the less of it, the more that can be preserved, the better. The entrance to the driveway I live in is about 12 feet wide. It varies a little bit depending on how sort of rotten the posts are and the sags go, but it's more or less 12 feet. I've lived there for over 40 years, and I don't think we've ever had a situation where two people sort of try to come in from opposite directions since I've been there. And I think it's, there are benefits to narrow. We have enormous trucks that occasionally horribly back down. It all seems to work. And the usual thing that all of us have. And the benefits of narrow are that there's more privacy for the people who live inside the wall. There's a sense of, there's more quiet from the road. And I think the building logistics of narrowing are not as onerous as the benefits from having a narrower avenue. So from the perspective of preserving stone walls, which certainly is a priority of the Historical Commission, a narrower opening, I think, should be considered very carefully.
Thank you. I appreciate your articulate comments. Thank you, Mr. Ladd. Is there anybody else who'd like to be heard? Okay, there's nobody else that who wants to be heard. Let me just make it clear. Is there anybody else who wants to be heard in opposition to these applications for variances as opposed to making comments and suggestions? Okay, there's no such person present. So, Mr. Corcoran, do you have anything you'd like to add?
If I might just have one
Of course you
moment.
can.
Sure. I think 16 feet, we can make that work.
I think just briefly, I appreciate the attention of the board. I appreciate the comments of those others who came from the Historical Commission. I think we would propose to incorporate, allow the board, have the board incorporate a condition into the variance decision that the wall opening would be reduced to 16 feet from the 25 feet as is currently shown, in order to preserve as much of that wall as possible. And with that, I would close our presentation and request the board's consideration of the application.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for your thoughtful consideration of the comments of neighbors and other members of the Historic Commission. It's our obligation to discuss this in open session and to vote on it, and we intend to do it here and now. So, Mr. Lundbaum, do you want to speak first?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, Attorney Corcoran makes a great presentation. I do know this particular house well because when I jog by it, I always look at it, and I love that beautiful swath of lawn there. And I make it a point to run on that grass because it's just beautiful and comfortable. And I really, I've taken the time a couple times to look at that home. I've always thought it was a beautiful home. The whole area is beautiful. especially as you go up to the hill. I think that the design is very tasteful. I especially like the design of the garage itself, from the depictions and the renderings. I can certainly understand the need for the additional space and mud rooms and so forth, and the office space. I think that those who spoke, who raised questions, I think they were all very well stated and well put. And I can certainly understand the concerns in terms of the preservation issue and the appearance and so forth. I think we can't lose sight of the fact that it is, the wall is the applicant's property. And he was kind enough in consultation with Attorney Cochran to think about the width area, and based on concerns raised by the neighbors, come to a consensus and be willing to narrow that down, and I think that speaks well to the applicant and his intent. I would like to hear from my other colleagues on the issues, but in the overall, I think it's a very tasteful addition. It's a tasteful plan, and barring anybody having any serious concerns, I would think, to vote in favor.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Quijano.
Thank you. I appreciate the presentation and all the input as well. I think that the design and layout is very tasteful. I think it's logical. It seems that a lot of thought was put into not only the design, but how it would flow for a house to make sense, with the mudroom and the garage where they're being located. I do very much appreciate that, while not required, due to the fact that the wall is homeowners, that a narrowing of the opening would go a long way, both from the outside aesthetics as well as most likely from the inside. So I appreciate a suggestion that can be added as part of the variance, and I would be tending to approve.
Okay. I thought the application was very well presented. I think the application is full and complete. The plans are wonderful. It looks like a wonderful property, and I think they're very tastefully done. And I think that there were multiple iterations of this project that the applicant went through. And I certainly appreciate the people from the Historic Commission, Ms. Wells, making her suggestions. I understand what she's saying, but I actually think the way it's planned is really better for it's more feasible and more appropriate for the use of the house and where the bedrooms are and all of that. But I do understand that Ms. Weld was seeking to make sure the property and the proposal is properly vetted, and it's really important. I think that the suggestion with respect to the driveway is well taken. I note that Mr. and Mrs. Ladd, they signed the petition in favor of this application, and yet they tell us about their driveway, and I admire the flexibility of the applicant and his builder and counsel to take the driveway down from 25 feet to 16 feet. That's a major change. But as long as everyone tells me that it's sufficient in width to be safe and under the circumstances, and I certainly thank you for making that type of concession. So I intend to vote for these variance applications. I think they're well done. They'll benefit the applicant, they'll benefit the neighborhood, they'll benefit the town, and I think everyone wins. So let's put it to a vote. All those in favor of granting the variance requested, with the condition of the driveway being 16 feet and the usual conditions about the construction being in substantial conformity with the plans that you've submitted, and that the project go forward in a timely way. We usually you're supposed to break ground within a year, and if for whatever reason, economic, health, or whatever, you're not able to do that, just come in beforehand. We can extend that period of time so you don't have to go through the variance process again. But then it just has to be completed with due dispatch under the watchful eye of the building inspector. So,
You gonna vote?
yeah, we are, right here and now. All those in favor of the application with those conditions that I've described?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
So congratulations on your variances, and good luck in your project.
Thank you very much.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank
I'll
you.
write this one, and you can,
Thank you so much.
Okay.
And thanks for saying my name correctly.
well,
I appreciate that.
I did my best. I said to myself, I know I'm going to call you Elaine Quijano because of the broadcaster that I see on TV all the time.
You can call me Elaine Quijano anytime you want. Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Mary, I'm going to take this one.
When sailing season starts, you may have.
Did we, I didn't sign one on the first case.
That's all right.
Lucy is my neighbor. She doesn't live there, but I think she attended the meeting. Her sister, so
Oh, good grief. You're right. Here I am putting it in with the,
Took the wrong file from my office today when I left, so I have no paperwork with me.
that's it. Okay, so this is good. Let me just get my, this is the old, so this goes in. That's all I have to do. Oh, that's it.
This is the whole, this is the rest of
Oh, great. Thank you. We're getting all discombobulated here.
Understand, we could just hang
You don't look like Mr. Howard.
No,
Are you still awake? You
Yeah,
didn't
no.
fall asleep.
I know.
Okay, let's call it. You're all set, Mrs. McKettrick? Yes. Okay, we're going to call to order a third and final hearing of the evening. This is on the application of Ulrich and Elizabeth Alvarez. It's dated April 5, 2018, seeking a variance from the terms of Section 6A1 of the bylaw. The applicant's proposing to build a 2.5-story addition over the existing attached garage at their single-family home at 48 Bradford Street in Milton. When they're building this, there's a formula that always applies that I find mysterious. But the basement is considered the first floor of the dwelling if it's more than 4 feet above average grade, and here that's the case. So that in this instance, this home is 4 feet 7 inches above the average grade, and technically making this a 3.5-story residence in Milton, and that isn't permitted by the bylaw. Hence the application for a variance. Properties in the Residence C district. My name is John Leonard. I'm Chairman of the Board of Appeals. With me this evening is, to my immediate left, is Board Member Stephen Lundbohm. To my immediate right is Board Member Kathleen O'Donnell. the rules of the board. We'll hear from the applicant, we'll hear from people who wish to ask questions of the applicant, wish to speak in favor of the application, or speak in opposition to the application. We're tape recording the hearing this evening, so that would ask that before anyone speaks, tell us your name and address, speak up nice and clear and loud, so we'll be able to have an accurate recording of the hearing. I've summarized the advertisement. It will have as evidence at the hearing, the application, which I think is dated April, is it 15th? Could be, it's hard to read. We have a denial letter from
It's April 5th.
April 5th, okay, great. We have the denial letter from Mr. Prondak at March 28, 2018. And always, it's mysterious to me how projects get denied before the application is filed, but I'm sure it's just a sequence of everyone running around. We have a plot plan of the land by Hoyt Land Surveying, January 3rd, 2018, showing the rather unusual shape of the existing premises. And we have some progress prints showing the proposed addition. Mrs. McGetrick has provided us with an online map of the Bradford Road area showing the various houses and their sizes and frontages. And we have the unofficial property record card describing the subject premises. So without further ado, Mrs. McGetrick, welcome back to the Board of Appeals. We're happy to hear from you.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I'm Mary McKettrick. I represent Ulrich and Elizabeth Alvarez, who are the owners of this property. They have encountered, as you have pretty well described, the interesting definition of building height and average grade of a lot, which results in a difficult situation for them because their lot is not flat. As you face the lot, from the left to the right, there's a pretty significant grade. And one reason I gave you the assessor's page is that the photograph on that page, if you look closely on it, it does show you pretty well what the grade of the lot is. You can see that it's at a level on the left, but then as you go down to the right towards the garage, it slopes down quite steeply. That slope of the lot creates an average grade calculation, which causes the problem, basically, because now the average grade is such that the first floor is above 4 feet. The finished grade of the first floor is above 4 feet by 0.7, so 7/10 of a foot. And the average grade of the proposed addition first floor, because it has to be level with the first floor, or almost level, of the existing house is also 0.7 or 0.7 or 7/10 of a foot too high, which means that the addition is considered to be 3.5 stories instead of 2.5 stories. The addition will consist, will be above the existing garage, and it will be in the same footprint as the existing garage. So they're not expanding the house sideways or back, but they're expanding it up. And the reason for the need for expansion is that, I think you met some of the children earlier. There are 4 children in this family. They're all young, and they've outgrown the size of the existing house. They need an extra bedroom and a bathroom, which is what they'll gain from creating this addition. We did spend a fair amount of time with the building commissioner, and the Alvarez's spent quite a bit of time with their architect surveyor, because the building commissioner told us that if they were to bring in fill and put it around the exterior foundation, they could perhaps address this problem. But before coming to the Board of Appeals, the Alvarez's had to go to the Conservation Commission, because there is a wetland in the cemetery property to the right of this lot. It's fairly close, and moving soil around on this lot could create a problem. They were able to get a determination that their area of work as proposed is not within 100 feet. But if they start moving a substantial amount of earth around, they would probably have to go back to the Conservation Commission. So at that point, we told the building commissioner that we were going to go and apply for the variance instead. It doesn't make much sense to start doing that and then have to encounter other permissions that would have to be sought, and it would disturb the land more, and it is near a wetland. So we're here tonight to say that this is really an ordinary addition. It looks just like many additions that have been built in Milton. It will match the exterior of the house. It will be, the roof line will match the house. It will substantially improve the house, the value of the house. And we have a petition that has been signed, I believe, by every single person within 300 feet, which is pretty unusual. Everybody supports this application, and there's been a considerable amount of work put into being properly prepared for it. That concludes my introduction. Happy to answer questions if you have any.
Sure. Let me just ask one question. Did you file the petition? Did you say that?
It's right here. Sorry.
You're going to file that with us? Thank you.
Yes.
We'll need that when we take a vote.
Yes, I understand.
That's great. Thank you. Ms. O'Donnell, do you have any questions?
I guess I'm a little confused. So you could get around the calculation of the height by dumping a bunch of dirt around the foundation?
The issue isn't the height.
But the calculating the basement, whatever, if you dumped a load of dirt.
Because this is the way the bylaw reads. It says that it's the average grade at the foundation, at the edge of the house.
Yeah.
And that's how you measure it. So you go around the house, you measure it, the average grade, and there are measurements on the right here.
Yeah.
So, according to Mr. Prondak, the building commissioner, you can bring fill in, and you can make it higher so that the grade would adjust enough. And this isn't a huge discrepancy.
Yeah.
7/10 of a foot. So he thought initially that would probably be a pretty good solution, and then you don't need a variance. And in some situations, it probably is. You wouldn't have to bring in very much fill. But if you can tell from the picture, this is a really high wall next to the garage.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work here. And I think would cover the window in the garage or something, would have to put in so much fill.
So I just said it was sort of interesting.
Yeah, it is. And I find it a very interesting criteria measurement, but it can be very confusing.
Wasn't town meeting supposed to change that or amend that so we don't run into these situations all the
That's right.
time?
We were going to have.
I think we'll have to think about it some more. I mean, at least in this situation, you should not have to come and get a variance in this situation. And it just creates more work for you and more expense for the applicant, and the neighborhood is certainly not harmed in any way by an application like this. The other factors that are important here, I didn't mention, but you did. The lot shape is very unusual. This is a triangular lot, so there really isn't a lot of area where you can add on. There isn't a lot of backyard that has any width.
If you take the corners out, it's a house on a postage stamp. That's what it really is.
It is. And this is the existing footprint of the house, so they're just trying to follow the existing footprint.
Mr. Lindblom, do you have any questions?
No, it's a one-bedroom, one-bathroom. Is that right?
Yes. Correct?
No.
No.
It is a family room on, I'm sorry,
right.
Ulrich Alvarez, 48 Bradford Road. It is a family, if I may.
Family room on the first floor, bed and bath above.
On the first floor, one bedroom above it. And the bed, I beg your pardon for leaning into your space. The extra bathroom would actually be in the existing walk-in closet that is in our existing bedroom. Right, so that's where the bathroom would come in. So we have a bathroom here, this is our closet right now, and this is the additional space. So family room above the garage and then bedroom above that, and we'd turn that in, because it's just far more straightforward with the plumbing.
Oh, yeah.
To be
Bigger
in that
bedroom,
room, 'cause
kitchen.
the bathroom's here, the kitchen's right below both of this, and then the vent pipe is right below there. So the grade for those pipes to drain into would be far easier. And if I may just make one correction, the roof line is lower than the existing roof line.
Yes.
And not all of my neighbors have signed that. There are two omissions. And they were welcome to come and do about, I believe Lucy McElroy is here to speak on behalf of her sister. Jack Delaney on Badger Circle said he would be here. But you'll note those as DNS did not sign on that, just
Thank you
to
for
let
that.
you know.
Great.
That's all I have.
Okay, I don't have any further questions of the applicant. Let me see, is there anybody who wishes to speak in support of the application?
No.
Is there anybody who either has questions of the applicant or wants to speak in opposition to the application? Okay, so there's no such person present, so we'll thank everyone present, and we'll close the hearing. Mrs. McGettrick, if you have no other evidence, and we'll we'll consider and vote on this application at the present time. So, Mr. Lundbaum, do you want to be heard first
Sure,
on
thank
this
you,
one?
Mr. Chairman. I think we may have found the case where the definition of the requirements under variance is pretty much here. We have an oddly shaped lot with some very strange topography, or something that doesn't seem to be consistent throughout the neighborhood. Obviously, a stated need here with a young family, 4 kids, and they were very cute to look at them running around.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. Very tastefully designed, and again, a well-stated need. I think without hesitation, I would vote in favor of the application.
Ms. O'Donnell.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Lombard. I think, I mean, the 0.7 inches, is this correct on the measurement is certainly a hardship to have to deal with. And I'm appreciative of the fact that it's still got the same footprint as the existing garage. And I certainly prefer the variance over dumping fill so close to a wetland.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with my colleagues. My only disappointment is that your children aren't here and speaking in support of the variance. I can recall a hearing we had, it was about a year ago, where Mom was draped with kids and was explaining the need for a variance, and that the children were delightful. I can understand why you didn't have the children here.
Oh, if that
but,
would have been the case, and much louder.
well, that's all right. We would have decided the application much sooner. But, so they were not a distraction. We love to have the families here if they can do it. It's getting a little bit late. I think the application was very well presented by Mrs. McGettrick. This is an anachronistic, if that's the right expression, part of the bylaw, which really needs to be studied and amended in some way to avoid these crazy things. But just looking at the application and looking at the plot plan, it's a very small house, and that there's very little land, and there's not much you can do with it. And I think you made the right choice, even though it involved retaining Mrs. McGettrick and all of that. It's a lot better than dealing with the Conservation Commission on all of this stuff. So, all those in favor of granting the variance as requested?
Aye.
Aye. So congratulations on
Thank you
your
very much.
variance, and
Appreciate it.
thank you for
Thank you.
coming tonight.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
If, it would be helpful if you would like me to draft a rough draft, I'd be happy to, if that would facilitate things, but if you'd rather not, that's fine too.
Well, yeah, I think that would be a wonderful idea. And I think Ms. O'Donnell will really appreciate that when she writes the decision.
Be happy to do it.
As
Thank you.
always,
That-
Mary.
that'd be great.
that's
Thanks.
very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you for coming, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.